Good day, sir. So our topic for today is all about the Victorian literature. So Victorian literature is the body of poetry, fictions, essay, letters produced during a foreign queens of Victoria. So when we say the foreign literature daw is kanang more on kung ano siya, mga poetry, fictions, essay, as I am said in 1837. And during this era, which bears her name. It forms like a link of transitions between the writers of the Romantic period and Modernist literature of the 20th centuries. Victorian poetry delves into a myriad of themes reflecting to the social landscape in 19th centuries. These themes include the intersectionality of gender, nationality, class, sexuality, religion, race, politics, disability, and family identities. Ad- Additionally, Victorian poetry often discuss the Industrial Revolution, the role of a woman in the society, often discuss the Industrial Revolution, the role of the woman in the society, and science and religions. So, ang Victorian poetry is, kung ano siya, mm, is kana ang thema is include mo ni ang gender, nationality, class, sexuality, religions, race, politics, disability, and family identities. Then the poetry of this era is engaged with experimental forms, dialogue, the dialogue with traditions, the impact of print, technology, science, religions, the heart's affections, empire, poetic liberties, art, and sake. Furthermore, there is a focus on the haptic experiment in poetry emphasize such emotion, empathy, and particular in the works of women and conquer poets.
Day, sir. I'm Noah Jeff Rosales. My topic is all about Robert Browning and dramatic monologues. So, the Robert Browning in 1812-1889 was a major Victorian poet renowned for the perfecting the dramatic monologue, a form he elevated to new high. So definition features. A dramatic monologue is a poem where a single pictorial or historical characters speak to an express listener. Now Robert Browning in 1812-1889 was leading a Victorian poet celebrated for perspective perfecting and popularizing the dramatic monologues, a form he used to develop into complex human psychologies and societal themes. So the key features of his dramatic monologues is a single speaker implicit listeners, critical moment settings, unreliable narrators, and last is psychological deep. So let's talk about a single speaker, implicit listener. The poem is the voice by the fictional or historical characters, not Browning himself, addressing an unsense or silenced listeners whose presence is infers from the speaker's words. For example, in my last dunches, the dog speak to an evoy, negotiating his next marriage. And the second is critical moment settings. The monologues unfolds as the pivotal point in the speaker's life, such as confessions, confrontations, or reflections, heightening dramatic tensions. Third is unreliable narrators. Speakers of often reveal these false places or even moral corruptions unintentionally through their own words. In Porphyrias' Lover, the narrators describe murdering his lover to preserve their love without recognizing his insanity. The last is psychological deep. Browning used the form of explore characters, motivations, desires, and inner complex, offering insights into human natures. So, major examples of his dramatic monologues. My Last Dunches explore power, Julius, and class through a Renaissance joke who admits to having his wife killed. Porphyrias' Lover, chilling portraits of madness and obsessive love. Third is Pralipolipi, examine art's purpose and morality through a monk who defends maintaining everyday life. The last is The Ring and the Book, an epic works with 12 dramatic monologues, each presenting a different perspective on a 17th century Roman murder trial, highlighting how truth is shaped by the individual viewpoints. Themes explore the multiple perspective. Truth in a shows the be subjective in scene in the ring and the book. Multi-perspective. Truth shows to be subjective as a scene in the ring and the book. Art and morality. Poems like Andrea del Sarto question whether artists must prioritize virtue in the words. Power and control, evident in the Doc's authoritarian's demeanor in My Last Dunches. Last is human fables. Browning satirizes timeless forms like jealousy, vanity, and hypocrisy. The influence of Robert Browning in a dramatic monologues is Browning mastery of the dramatic monologues influenced later points such as T.S. Eliot and Ezra Pound, who adapted the form of the explore modern themes and psychological complexity.
The works of Alfred Lord Tennyson. Who is Alfred Lord Tennyson? Alfred Lord Tennyson was the leading Victorian poet in England. His poetry is remarkable for its metrical variety, rich imagery, and verbal melodies. It dealt often with the tough and difficult of an age in which traditional religious beliefs about human nature and destiny were increasingly called into question by science and modern progress. Tennyson's style varies greatly from work to work. He wrote both short and long work, but much of his poetry had allusion or was based on classical mythology as well as the theme of isolation. He often wrote with structured matter, but he could also write blank verse. Love, Pride, and Forgetfulness by Alfred Lord Tennyson. sonnet to GMK. First printed in 1930, not in 1933. This sonnet was addressed to John Mitchell Campbell, the well-known editor of the Beowulf and other Anglo-Saxon poems. Is intended to go into the church but was never ordained and devoted his life to early English studies. See in memory of him, Index of Not Biography. The Victorian era was a great age for novels, and realism was the dominant narrative mode. Realistic Victorian novels were popular because they, first, de- depicted contemporary life and entertainment for the middle class. Next is featured characters that were similar to and connected to the middle class. Next is were long with many characters and the thick plot. Next is were often published in serial form with installment released regularly. And last is focused on everyday people, hard lives and moralism. Realism in Victorian novels aim to portray realistic events and people in realistic way. It emphasizes first is detachment, objectivity, and accurate observation. Next is lucid but restrained criticism of social environment and norms. Next, last is a human understanding that underlay its moral judgment. Some techniques used in Victorian realism include omniscient narration, pre-indirect discourse, vernacular dialogue, extended description, and open-ended narrative. Some notable Victorian novels who incorporated realist elements into their work include Charles Dickens, Anthony Trollope, George Eliot, Ivan Turgenev, Leo Tolstoy, and William Dean Howells. That's all.
Next is what is realism in literature? Literary realism is literary movement that represent reality by portraying mundane, everyday experience as they are in real life. It depicts familiar people, places, and stories, primarily about the middle and lower classes of society. Literary realism seeks to tell a story as truthfully as responsible instead of dramatizing or romanticizing. So it means realism in literature. Lit, Realism in literature is a movement that emerged in the 19th century, focusing on depicting everyday life and experience in truthful and accurate manners. It rejects romanticism and idealization, instead emphasizing the ordinary, and often gritty aspects of reality. So, romanticism versus realism. Romanticism emphasizes imagination and emotion. Next is depicts larger than life heroes. Next is views the world idealistically. And last is focuses on the exotic, the supernatural and imaginary worlds. And realism is emphasizes accuracy and objectivity. Next is depicts common everyday heroes, views the world scientifically, and last is focuses on real situations.
Afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, classmates. Here is my assigned topic: Romanticism versus Realism. So, Romanticism is the Romanticism is a movement emphasizes imaginations and emotions over objective reality. So, mao na siya ang romanticism. Nag-emphasize ra og imaginations or emotions. There's a characteristics of romanticism: emphasize imaginations and emotions, depict larger than life heroes, views the world idealistically, focuses on the exotic, the supernatural, and imaginary world. So, nag-focus na sa supernatural or imaginary. Example poem of Alone by Edgar Allan Poe, which explores themes of isolations and unique perceptions from childhood. So, one of the examples of poem by Edgar Poe. So, next is realism. This movement focuses on accuracy, objectivity, and everyday life, contrasting sharply with romanticism, idealism. So here's a characteristic of realism: emphasize accuracy and objectivity, depict common everyday heroes, views the world significantly, focuses on real situations. So mao na siya ang realism. Example form of realism: The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost, which used the real world scenario of choosing a path to reflect on life decisions and their consequences. So here's a difference between the romanticism and realism. So romanticism emphasizes emotions, nature's individualism, and sublime reaction against enlightenment reason, while realism made late 18th century emerged as a reflection focused on objective truth and detailed depictions of ordinary life, everyday people, and societal issues, often while integrity focuses a factual approach, valuing experience over fantasy. Essentially, romanticism is about feeling and idealizations. Realism is about seeing and documenting reality as it is. So, romanticism focuses on emotions, institutions, imaginations, beauty, and extraordinary. So, mo na siya romanticism. So, the realism nag-focus sa truthful, sa tinawag na itong objective and accuracy presentation of the observation world. So, mo na siya ang realism. So, maro to sir. Thank you.
So next is Victorian novels. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, one of the great romances and pioneering work of fiction. Jane Eyre is an intense psychological narration, a coming-of-age story, and among the most influential novels ever written. It spans the life of its title's character from her hard and abusive childhood, including her education at lower schools, through to her employment as a governess for the enigmatic Mr. Rochester and their growing relationship. For a companion piece, it's well worth reading Jane's Rise, Wild Sargassy, and Imagine prequel featuring Mr. Rochester's first wife, written over a century later. A Christmas Carol is a novel by Charles Dickens, first published London by Chapman and Hall in 1843 and illustrated by John Leech. It recounts the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, an elderly messiah who is visited by the ghost of his former business partner Jacob Marley and the spirits of Christmas past, present, and yet to come. In the process, Scrooge is transformed into a kinder, gentler man. Our Mutual Friend, written in 1864-1865, is the last novel completed by English author Charles Dickens, and it is one of his most sophisticated works combining savage satire with social analysis. So, Dracula is 1897, Gothic horror novel by Irish author Stoker, and epistolary novels. The narrative is related through letters, diary entries, and newspaper articles. It has no single protagonist and opens with solicitor Jonathan seeking a business tape to stay in the castle of Transylvanian nobleman Count Dracula. So Victoria's novels, Wuthering Heights is the only novel by the English author Emily Bronte, initially published in 1847 under the pen name Alice Bill, and the novel influenced by Romanticism and Gothic fiction is considered a classic of English literature. The picture of Dorian Gray is a philosophical fiction and Gothic horror novel by Irish writer Oscar Wilde. A shorter novel-length version was published in the July 1890 issues of the American periodical Lippincott's Monthly Magazine. So the story revolved around a portrait of Dorian Gray painted by Basil Hallward, a friend of Dorian's and an artist infatuated with Dorian's beauty. So the Time Machine is an 1895 dystopian post-apocalyptic science fiction novel by H.G. Wells about a Victorian scientist known as the Time Traveler who travels approximately 80 to 701 years into the future. So, the term time machine coined by Wells is now almost universally used to refer to such a vehicle or device.
Kani ko na si Charlotte, Emily, and Brontes. Mao ko na sila ang authors sa mga pindot nga love books in the English literature. Sikat po din sila sa tibok kalibutan. Sikat po din sila sa tibok kalibutan. Kanitong 1820 to 1861. And the Bronte sisters were 18th century role models who challenged social norms by becoming writers, a role typically held by men at the time. Their education enabled them to write well-known novels and serve as an example of the equal education. Uh, the sisters, kaning tulo ka sisters, are known for the novels that challenge Victorian gender when restricted to the household and were published under male pseudonyms. And the Bronte sister, the Bronte sister Charlotte, Emily, and Anne are known for the novels that challenge Victorian gender. Women must in the household and were published under the pseudonyms. Uh, natay pagkakuan. First is pseudonyms. The sisters use pseudonyms course Charlotte, Elise, Emily and Acton and Bill. The sister used the southern care Charlotte Ellis by the next is gender bias. Gender bias. In the 19th century, women's roles were limited to domestic work, and literary pursuits were considered improper for women to be taken seriously. The sister had to publish under male pseudonyms. Next is gender identity. Gender identity. The Bronte sisters explore gender and exhibit gender queerness. Their exclusion in LGBT pride campaigns has been controversial due to concern about imposing gender ideology on historical figures. And last is writing style. The Bronte sister novels are known of emotional intensity, complex characters, and exploration of social limitation. They also wrote about the vulgarities of the world, such as abuse, purely affair, and which was considered considered The Bronte sisters' novels are known of emotional intensity, complex characters, exploration of sociality limitation, and addressing taboo subjects like abuse, cruelty, and affairs. Um, ang pinakasikat nila na literary works is kaning the the Tenant of Wild Pill, Wall by Anne Bronte, is considered the most radical of the sister works due to its focus on thought subject. First, the second famous literary works, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte in 1847 is a dark novel featuring cruel treatment of others.
Hello sir, I am Richard Chidaniba from Bapstory Block 4 of Group 3. So my title of topic is all about Bronte sister famous literacy works. So there are the five Bronte sister famous literacy works. So first, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. This novel is considered the most radical of the sister works because of its focus on thought subject. So ang tenant day nga The Tenant of Wildfell Hall sir is mao ni siya ang usa ka nobela nga gisulat ni Anne Bronte. Ang istorya kay mao kuno nang nagisgot kang Helen Graham, usa ka babaye nga may puyo sa usa karaang balay nga gitawag og Wildfell Hall. Nahiila siya nga isip hilumon og misteryoso nga mao nga daghang tawo nga baryo o naglibak o nangatana kung kinsa kuno siya. So mao din na siya sir ang The Tenant of Wildfell of Land. Second, Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. This novel is known for using many real people, event, and location. So ang Shirley dahil mao kuno siya ang usa ka nobela nga gisulat ni Charlotte Bronte. Ang istorya nitabo sa Inglaterra panahon sa Industrial Revolution. So nga panahon kuno sa dakong kausab sa trabaho o kahimtangan sa mga tawo. So Violet by Charlotte Bronte. This 1853 novel is considered her most accomplished work. The narrator Lucy Snowy flees England to become an instructor in a French boarding school. So ang bilit day mo ko niya usa ka nobela nga gisulat ko pud ni Charlotte Bronte. So ang istorya kay mao din ang gisaysay nga pinaagi sa panan-aw ni Lucy Snowy, usa ka babae nga hilumon og hunaon og puno sa kasakit sa kanang kasing-kasing daw. So mao din na siya sir ang kuan Violet by Charlotte Bronte this 1853 novel. So Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, this 1847 novel is controversial and dark, featuring cruel treatment and others. So ang Wuthering Heights Wuthering Heights kay usa ka nobela nga gisulat pud ni Emily Bronte. So ang istorya day about sa Wuthering Heights kay ang nahitabo sa usa ka hilit og baghoyon nga lugar sa Inglaterra. So og naglibot kuno sa kusog nga gugma o kasuko sa pahimalos. So next, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This 1847 novel is about an independent governess who overcome hardship while staying true to her principle. It's considered one of the best known novel in literature. So ang Jane Eyre day kay matugin nga nagsulat sa nobela pud gisulat ni Charlotte Bronte. So ang istorya day about ani sa Jane Eyre. So ang naghisgot ko na siya sa kinabuhi ni Jane Eyre, usa ka ulila nga babae nga nagdako sa puno sa kalisod. So kini day si Jane Eyre day mao dinhi ang kuan, nagdako siya sa kalisod og paglig-on nga kasing-kasing og prinsipyo. So sa iya kunong pagkabata, si Jane gipuyo sa balay siya iyang parente nga si Mr. kuan Reed. So diin siya gitratar og daotan. So ulahi gipadala siya sa Lowood School. So usa ka eskwelahan nga istrikto nga og puno sa kalisod, apan didto siya nakakaton og disiplina og kabelo og paglahutay. So that's all sir. Thank you.